A Tennessee state representative wants ETSU to remove references to LGBTQ plus people as being protected under Title IX.
A letter was sent to ETSU President Brian Nolan from Republican State Representative John Reagan. He's from Oak Ridge. The letter sent last Monday, and the university says that they have until tomorrow. He says the university has until tomorrow to comply.
It says ETSU must remove language saying LGBTQ plus people are protected under the federal Title IX law. The letter says it needs to be removed from any university publications, policies, or web pages. Ansley Daniel has been digging through this letter today.
Ansley, ETSU not the only school in Tennessee that got that message, right?
Josh and Sarah, Representative Reagan told us today that leadership at every publicly funded university across the state received this letter. ETSU, being one of those universities, has already made some changes to its policy, but one alum tells us that she thinks this is just the beginning of attacks against the LGBTQ plus community. The 6-point letter to ETSU President Brian Nolan advises the university to drop any references that Title IX protects LGBTQ plus people.
When I reviewed the policies, by the way, some of the universities in our state still have not completed their input to me on their policies, which was due back in July. Nonetheless, I took what I had, and I also reviewed their websites for policy statements. And I found some concerning issues in those policy statements on the website.
Title IX began as giving women equal rights to men, but a June 16, 2021 news release from the U.S. Department of Education says enforcement would now include discrimination based on sexual orientation and on gender identity. It even threatened to remove funding for universities that didn't comply.
Universities get a huge amount of their funding from the federal government, either directly or indirectly. There's research grants, there's Pell grants, there's student loans. If they choose to cut that off, then the universities are in a financial bind that is almost indescribable.
A federal July injunction, though, says college and university publications, policies, and websites aren't required or even authorized by law to state or imply that Title IX protects LGBTQ students, and keeping them could be interpreted as violating state law.
I would probably recommend that we call that organization in front of my committee for an explanation. My committee has the power to sunset any state agency. The sunset literally means to dissolve it. And we have done that in the past.
After News Channel 11 posted a web story earlier today, ETSU changed the Title IX page of its website. It went from describing the law as protecting individuals of all gender and sexual orientations to protects individuals from discrimination on the basis of sex.
My personal advice right now would be to reword that. The way it's worded right now is confusing. And in fact, it conflates, just like the U.S. Department of Education did, Title VII and Title IX guidance.
ETSU alumna, Democratic State Senate candidate, and member of the LGBTQ community, Kate Craig, is calling this a form of blackmail.
You threaten their funding, you're attacking the LGBTQ community. So it's part of the slate of hate that's coming out, because they're finding every way, shape, or form to make it more difficult that if you identify as being gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, if you identify under any of these labels, then they were wanting to make it more difficult to exist here.
Craig also fearing this is just the beginning of more restrictions on her community.
Well, the Supreme Court's already made it known that this is their agenda, to overturn same-sex marriage, to overturn marriage equality. We've seen that in the op-eds. We've seen that in Justice Clarence Thomas's opinion that came out regarding Roe v. Wade, that this is part of his agenda. So I see this as the Nashville legislators took that as the signal to go, yes, move forward with that.
When asked for comment, ETSU spokesperson Jessica Vauden said that the university isn't prepared to speak about this letter as its legal team is continuing to review the request. But in an email response, she wrote that we will respond as requested.